Welcome back, deep divers. We're diving deep today thanks to you. You sent in some seriously interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The audiobook, specifically.
Ah, classic. Love it.
We're focusing on these really cool clips from a YouTube channel called Dr. Farouk Balagh English. So think of this deep dive as like extracting the core wisdom from Kiyosaki's Rich Dad over what, 30 years?
Yeah.
30 years. Starting way back in his childhood.
Sounds like a plan.
We know you're all about those aha moments, right? Getting to the heart of complex ideas without getting bogged down. That's what we're aiming for today.
Let's do it.
All right, let's jump right into Kiyosaki's big idea.
The rich don't work for money.
Right off the bat, eh?
It all starts with 9-year-old Robert. Back in 1956, he felt kind of left out.
What's that?
His family, they weren't exactly rolling in dough. He even talks about his friend Jimmy, who had this brand new Cadillac. And his family would, jet off to their beach house.
Ah, I see. It's so different worlds. Yeah, completely. And this is where the advice he gets from his poor dad and his rich dad is so different.
Okay, lay it on me.
So his poor dad, super educated guy, right? He's all about the traditional path. Good grades, stable job, benefits, the whole 9 yards. But the rich dad, oh, he's got a totally different take.
What's that?
He's like, learn how to make money work for you. Like a totally different game.
Interesting.
To really drive home this point, the rich dad offers Robert and his friend, Mike, a job.
Oh, yeah. What kind of job?
10 cents an hour.
10 cents. For two 9-year-olds, that's not much.
I know, right? At first it feels almost like, I don't know, exploiting them or something. But there's a deeper lesson here. It's about making them aware of what it means to work for money.
Ah, I see. Make them feel that grind.
Exactly. And more importantly, spark that desire for financial education. That hunger to figure out how money really works.
So not just about the pennies, it's about the bigger picture.
Exactly. And this actually connects to a huge point Kiyosaki makes. Most people spend their lives trading their time for money
Stuck on that hamster wheel.
without ever truly understanding the system,
And driven by fear, right?
Yes. Fear of not paying bills, fear of losing their job, fear of not having enough. It's all about fear.
That's a powerful motivator, fear.
But it can also hold you back. Now, the rich dad's teaching style, that's something else.
Really? What's it like?
Forget lectures and textbooks. He's all about real-life experiences.
Yeah.
Throw them in the deep end and let them figure it out.
So he's less about theory, more about practical experience.
Totally. It's about learning by doing. And this brings up an interesting point about our education system, right? I mean, it kind of reinforces that employee mindset.
I see what you mean. It's all about getting a good job, not necessarily about financial independence.
Right. And that's a huge blind spot. The rich dad's approach, it's like, hey, you got to learn how to build your own financial foundation.
Become financially literate, in a sense.
Exactly. Because the fundamental difference is this. The poor and middle class, they work for money.
But the rich have their money working for them.
Right. It's about shifting that perspective. Now, the rich dad had over 150 employees.
That's a lot of people.
And he says not one of them ever asked him about money.
Really, not one.
Not a single one. They were happy with their paycheck. No one thought about the bigger picture.
Wow. That's kind of sad in a way.
It is. And this is where emotions come in. I mean, remember Kiyosaki's frustration with that 10-cent wage?
Oh, yeah, that was pretty funny.
It was. But it also fueled him. He was determined to figure out a different way.
So passion, anger, even, they can be drivers for learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's in direct contrast to fear, which often leads to those safe, predictable job choices.
The playing it safe trap.
Exactly. And the rich dad even talks about this idea of people exploiting themselves.
What does that mean?
He's saying that people who stay in low-paying jobs, unhappy jobs, mainly out of fear, they're not just victims of their employers, they're victims of their own lack of financial literacy.
So they're trapped by their own fear.
Exactly. It's a tough concept, but it's true. So think about this. Are you working for money? Or are you building something that will make money work for you?
It's a good question for everyone to ask themselves.
All right, so after the 10-cent job comes the work-for-free experiment.
Oh, here we go. This is a classic.
The rich dad tells Robert and Mike, no more pay. Can you imagine?
I'd be pretty shocked.
Right. They're 9 years old. You just got a taste of earning money, and now it's gone.
So what's the lesson here?
It's about breaking that connection between labor and immediate compensation.
Teaching them to think beyond the paycheck.
Exactly. To learn how not to work for money. Mike, he seems to get it. He just does the work, no complaints. But for Robert, it's tough.
Yeah, I bet. Especially at that age.
He talks about missing out on baseball games, not being able to buy his favorite comics.
Ah, the sacrifices.
But these were actually part of the lesson, too. It's about understanding the opportunity cost of your time.
Even if you're not getting paid, your time has value.
Right. And then comes this really important conversation at the picnic table.
Okay, what happens there?
The rich dad lays it out. The trap of working hard for a small paycheck and clinging to that supposed job security. He even uses examples like Mrs. Martin, who works her tail off at the laundry, and those softball players busting their humps.
I've met those people, working hard, but not necessarily getting ahead.
Exactly. It's that illusion of security. And then, to really test them, the rich dad starts offering raises.
Oh, how sneaky.
25 cents, then $1, then $2 an hour. Robert's like, take the money, take the money.
It's hard to resist a good offer.
But that's the point. It's about learning to control those impulsive emotional urges.
To think long term, not just for the quick win.
Exactly. It's about recognizing your emotions, whether it's fear, desire, greed, and not letting them control you.
So, like emotional intelligence for finances.
Totally. The rich dad keeps emphasizing the key to solving financial problems is between your ears.
In other words, developing your financial IQ.
Right. He breaks it down. Fear and desire, those are the big ones.
The two driving forces in our relationship with money.
And fear, he says, that's what keeps people stuck in the cycle of working for money.
Always chasing that next paycheck.
Yeah, because they think it will alleviate their anxieties, but it's a temporary fix, right?
Like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone.
Exactly. And here's another powerful insight. Just being rich doesn't solve the problem if you haven't dealt with those underlying emotions.
So you can be wealthy and still be trapped.
He says that financial struggle isn't about the economy or the government. It's about fear and ignorance.
That's pretty deep.
It is. It means that you are responsible for your own financial well-being.
You have the power to change things.
Right. And he uses this really cool metaphor, the briar patch.
Okay, a briar patch.
Yeah, it's like a place people avoid because it's stony and unpleasant. But he's saying you got to go into those uncomfortable places. Face your fears, your greed.
So it's about confronting those uncomfortable truths.
Absolutely. Choose your thoughts. Don't just react emotionally. And this ties back to the job thing. A job is often a short-term solution to a long-term problem.
A quick fix, but not a lasting solution.
And the fear of not having money, that controls so many people's lives.
It's a powerful force.
Then there's this funny little story about 5-cent lead pieces.
Oh, yeah. What about them?
It's their first attempt at creating their own money. You know, like little entrepreneurs already.
I love it.
And this sparks a conversation about what money really is. The rich dad says it's an illusion held together by confidence and ignorance.
So it's not about the actual object, but the shared belief in its value.
Right. He even talks about going off the gold standard.
Yeah.
And how that could destabilize things for people who think money is like a concrete thing.
That's a whole other conversation, isn't it?
It is. And the rich dad's advice at the end of this lesson is so powerful. Keep working, boys, but the sooner you forget about needing a paycheck, the easier your adult life will be.
That's quite a statement.
It is. It's about shifting that mindset from employee to entrepreneur.
To thinking about building something of your own.
Exactly. So, after all this, Mike and Kiyosaki, they've been primed to think differently.
Their minds are open to new possibilities.
And they spot an opportunity.
Yeah.
Discarded comic books.
Okay, comic books.
Yeah, they realize they can rent them out.
That's pretty clever.
Right. They gather up the comics, set a price 10 cents per book, and even hire Mike's sister to help. They're building a mini business.
Yeah, true entrepreneurial spirit.
They end up making like $9.50 a week.
Not bad for a comic book rental business.
Not bad at all. And the key is it's passive income.
They're not trading their time for money anymore.
Right. They've created a system that works even when they're not actively working. It's a huge lesson in entrepreneurship.
They're learning about controlling their own finances.
Exactly. Of course, there are challenges. Finding reliable help, dealing with bullies. Eventually, the business shuts down.
Oh, too bad.
But the rich dad, he's not disappointed. He's excited. They learned the most important lesson: how to make money work for them.
That's a victory in itself.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the second big lesson. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep.
Makes sense. You got to hold on to it.
And the book catches us up on Mike. He ends up taking over his dad's business in 1990.
So he became successful.
Hugely successful. And Kiyosaki, he retired at 47. His wife, Kim, at 37. But he emphasizes retiring doesn't mean stopping work altogether.
What does it mean then?
It's about reaching a point where your wealth grows automatically faster than inflation. So you have the freedom to choose what you do.
Financial independence.
Exactly. And he uses this analogy of the Empire State Building.
Oh, yeah. I like analogies.
It's about building a strong financial foundation, like the Empire State Building, with its deep, solid foundation.
As opposed to what?
A typical suburban home built on a thin concrete slab.
Ah, I see. So a weak foundation.
Exactly. And he points out that our education system doesn't really teach us how to build that strong financial foundation.
Which is kind of ironic, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
So many people end up with what he calls the leaning tower of suburbia.
What does that mean?
It's like they're living the American dream, but they're stressed out, up to their eyeballs in debt.
That doesn't sound like much of a dream.
Nope. And he makes this surprising statement. Accounting is crucial for long-term wealth.
Accounting? Really?
I know, right? But he's saying it's about understanding the language of money.
Makes sense. You got to know the rules of the game.
And the rich dad was so good at explaining this stuff, even to kids, using simple pictures and diagrams.
He was a natural teacher.
And it all boils down to this. Know the difference between an asset and a liability.
This is a big one, right?
Huge. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out.
So simple, but so important.
Right. And so many people don't get it. They buy liabilities thinking they're assets.
Like what?
Like a big house with a huge mortgage, or a fancy car with a big loan.
They look like assets, but...
They're draining your money. And he gives those examples of lottery winners and professional athletes who lose it all.
Oh, yeah, those stories are always so sad.
They make a ton of money, but they don't know how to keep it. So if you're dreaming of getting rich quick, remember this. Build that strong foundation first.
It's about financial literacy, not just luck.
And the rich dad emphasizes that it's not just about numbers, it's about words too.
What do you mean?
Understanding financial reports, the stories they tell.
Oh, like reading between the lines?
Right. It's about being financially literate in every sense. And he reiterates, more money doesn't solve problems.
It can actually make them worse.
If you don't have that financial intelligence, more money just magnifies your bad habits.
Like throwing gasoline on a fire.
Exactly. Then he lays out these different cash flow patterns.
For different types of people.
Yeah, the poor, the middle class, and the rich.
Okay, let's break that down.
The poor.
Yeah.
Income comes in, expenses go out, usually more expenses than income.
Yeah.
No assets, no liabilities. They're just trying to survive.
It's a tough cycle to break.
The middle class. Income covers expenses, but they buy liabilities they think are assets.
Like that house and car we talked about.
Right. So they're trapped in this cycle of working to pay off those liabilities. And then there's the rich. Their income comes mainly from their assets.
So the money works for them.
Exactly. Their assets generate enough to cover their expenses and then some.
That's the goal.
It is. And he gives this example of a young couple, educated, good jobs. Their income increases, but they just buy more liabilities.
Oh no, falling into that trap.
A bigger house, a fancier car, more credit card debt. They're in the rat race.
They're making more, but they're not getting ahead.
And then they try to solve it with a bill consolidation loan.
That's a slippery slope.
It is. It's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. The problem's still there.
You're just masking it.
He says, if you're in a hole, stop digging.
Words to live by.
Then he shares this Japanese wisdom about the 3 powers.
3 powers, huh?
The sword, the jewel, and the mirror. The sword represents weapons and force. The jewel is money and wealth. And the mirror represents self-knowledge.
Okay, I see where this is going.
He's saying that self-knowledge is the most important power.
Knowing yourself, your relationship with money.
Exactly. And so many people are afraid to be different.
To think outside the box.
To challenge conventional financial wisdom. They just follow the crowd, even if it's leading them astray.
They'd rather be safe than sorry.
And he tells this story about Mike's dad, who left school at 13.
13.
Wow.
But he ended up directing highly educated professionals.
Because he had that practical financial intelligence.
Right. It's about knowing how the world really works, not just the textbook version.
Street smarts versus book smarts.
And the rich dad believed in hiring people smarter than him.
That's a sign of true wisdom, I think. It is. It's about leveraging the expertise of others. Now, Mike and Kiyosaki, they started to see the flaws in the traditional advice they were getting.
Their real-world experience clashed with conventional wisdom.
Exactly. And there's this classic argument with the poor dad about the house being an asset.
Oh, yeah, that's a common one.
The poor dad is like, it's the American dream. It's an investment.
But the rich dad sees it differently.
Totally. He breaks down the costs, the mortgage payments, the upkeep, the lost opportunity.
He's not as simple as it seems.
Nope. He says that expensive house actually holds you back in 3 ways.
Okay, tell me more.
1, it eats up time you could be spending building real assets. 2, it ties up your capital that you could be investing.
You're stuck paying the mortgage.
And 3, you miss out on gaining valuable investment experience.
So it's a triple whammy.
It is. The bottom line, the rich buy assets, the poor and middle class buy liabilities disguised as assets.
It's all about understanding that fundamental difference.
Now let's move on to lesson 3, mind your own business.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
This isn't about being nosy, it's about building your own financial empire. And he starts with Ray Kroc and McDonald's.
McDonald's, what about it?
Most people think McDonald's is in the hamburger business.
I mean, that's what they sell, right?
But Ray Kroc, he understood that his real business was real estate.
What do you mean?
He was strategically buying up the land under each franchise.
Ah, so he owned the real estate, not just the burger joints.
Exactly. That's where the real value was. And this illustrates a huge point. So many people spend their lives building someone else's business.
Working for someone else's dream.
Right. Your employer, the government, the bank.
Yeah.
You're making them rich, not yourself.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
It is. And he makes this key distinction. Your profession is how you earn income. Your business is your asset column.
So even if you're a banker, you don't necessarily own the bank.
Right. You're working for it. And the problem is, people get so focused on their profession, they neglect their own business.
They're stuck in the I need a raise mindset.
Exactly. They're looking at their income statement, not their balance sheet. They're not focused on building assets.
And that's why the poor and middle class are often so risk averse.
They don't have that safety net of assets. So they cling to job security.
It's a vicious cycle.
And then he gives this example of a downsize. People lose their jobs, and suddenly their so-called assets become burdens.
Like that big house that's now costing them a fortune.
Exactly. It's a liability. So minding your own business means building that asset column.
Creating your own financial security.
Once money goes into that asset column, it stays there, working for you.
Like a little army of money-making soldiers.
And he points out a key difference between the wealthy and everyone else.
Okay, what is it?
The poor and middle class, they buy luxuries first.
They want to look successful.
But they often go into debt to do it. The rich, they buy luxuries last.
After they've built up their assets.
Exactly. So the message is clear. Focus on building your asset column. Keep your job, but start minding your own business.
Start building your financial future.
And he talks about the importance of financial literacy when it comes to investing and starting a business.
You got to know what you're doing.
But he also cautions against starting a business just for the money.
Especially if you don't have the passion or the knowledge.
Right. It's got to be something you truly believe in. So that's lesson 3. Mind your own business, build your asset column, and start creating your own financial freedom.
Powerful stuff.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a couple of big ideas stand out.
What are they?
First, knowing the difference between an asset and a liability.
That's the foundation of everything.
It is. And second, understanding that the rich don't work for money, they make money work for them.
It's about shifting your perspective.
And remember, this is a journey, not a destination. You're always learning, always adapting.
It's about continuous improvement.
So, as you go about your day, ask yourself, am I working for money or am I building assets?
Am I minding my own business?
And finally, think about this. Whose advice are you following? The poor dad or the rich dad?
Which path are you choosing?
And what small step can you take today to start building your own financial freedom?
It all starts with one small step.
We've only scratched the surface of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There's so much more to explore. If you're interested in diving deeper into specific aspects of financial literacy or asset building, let us know. We're always looking for new deep dives to explore.
Let's keep learning together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.
See ya.